Let me know if the music's too loud or if my mic's too short or too quiet. I do chart crypto. Say I don't need to chart your account. I know it only goes up. I haven't looked at Ethereum yet. I did chart Bitcoin. I think I have that charted out. Man, what did I chart it on? What's going on with the volume candles? Those are messed up. Maybe I didn't save it. Wait, hold on. I'm stupid. I'm not looking at the right ticker. There it is. Market's going up because Biden said he would meet with Putin. Alright, so I did chart out Bitcoin. So this is cool. I wanted to test something. This is what I tweeted out. If you guys are curious, we could take a look at it in depth. So this price action, what I did was I don't read finance books. Everything I learned from gurus and YouTube videos and just trading with people that did it for a living for years and years and years. So check this out. So we can measure. So I was looking at the price action on Bitcoin, right? And I was looking at it and I was like, you know, that looks a lot like Neo, but you know, a little bit higher peaks and valleys for sure. But I was like, I wonder if the price action is still similar in the last year. So I decided to test it. And I took June 30th through today. And then I just took that. So I took that. I threw it on the chart. And I said, let's find out. And look at that. Looks very similar. So, and it even matches up with the current neckline and everything with the rejection, new head and shoulders. Basically everything I priced out except a little bit, you know, if we just move this over, you know, it's basically the same thing that I was thinking. So the price action meets what I was going to do anyway, so. Yeah, I think it's gonna go down again. I mean, like I said, you don't have the fractal's just something fun I did. I think the blue and red paths are more likely to happen. The one from Neo is just funny that it worked out that way. You know, people always like those crazy predictions, so wanted to see if that would work out. But yeah, I think it's gonna make a rising wedge here of some sort, and it goes in line with basically everything else that I was thinking was going to happen, so maybe it's a little bit tighter. You know, something like that. You see it bounce on some of these zones, you know. For instance, like this one would be right in here. So yeah, I chart crypto. I don't do it as often because I don't trade as much crypto. For me, I just like to buy and hold, and you know, add on the big dips like there and here. And you know, I sold a lot of my crypto back up here, so I don't have a lot. You know, I got a couple thousand in it, but other than that, nothing special. Most of my money's in stocks and equities. Alright, so I made a list here. It's pinned to the YouTube. You can go ahead and, if you want to follow along, these are all the top holdings in SPY, QQQ, the Dow, and IWM. I'm in the mood for this song. So let's look at Apple first. Yeah, I did have Apple charted. This is a very similar chart to what I tweeted at the beginning of the year. I haven't changed much. I just kind of updated a little bit. I feel like I gotta update a little bit more. Haven't updated it since earnings. So I feel like it's gonna have some choppiness. So basically what it's gonna do is it's gonna create a bear flag this week, and next then it's gonna break down out of this channel, retest it, break down, create another bottom. Then from there we're gonna see another run into the earnings. I think mid-February that we're in right now through mid-March, you're gonna see a lot of FUD. You know, you're gonna see a lot of buying by long-term investors because we know we're gonna keep going up. But in general, you know, you see dark pool buying a ton right now. That song gets me going. And Apple's going to be one of the stronger of them because Apple, there's not a whole lot of reason to sell Apple, and that's just how I currently feel about it. You know, we do have an ABC, so maybe this is a 1-2. Maybe it's an overarching ABC down, because I do possibly see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up here, which means we could get an ABC down again, which would put us probably down here. Something like that. So that would corroborate the story that we are going down. So for me, you could do, if we are doing an Elliott wave count, which you know, it's funny because you see this Batman here, the retest. For me, that would mean a 1-for-1 measured move down. That would put me right down at 163. So we're going to be targeting Apple at 163 this week. And either it's going to make a Wu-Tang back up, or, you know, the funny thing is it's done similar things like this before. So remember doing it back here. So if you were to take, you know, from here to here, I feel like this, whoops, I feel like this would be a similar fractal. You know, it's going to be a little squished, but shorter time period. So that would corroborate us coming down a little bit more. You know, a similar price action, not quite the same, but bounce is a little bit bigger here. So maybe not quite the same, but it is interesting to see. Let's see if we can see anything similar to it from back in the day. Not really. I mean, this is basically in a channel up. But I do think it's going to retest this 200-day here, and that's where you're going to start seeing it go back up. Alright, Microsoft. Yeah, once I get through all this, I'll be happy to take some earnings requests. Alright, so Microsoft. Oh wow, this thing has sliced through all of my channels. Last time I charted this was before earnings. I don't play the major stocks that often. But now I have to extend these. I have to find more pivots. I can lower the music if it's too loud. Yeah, for sure. Alright, let me know how that is, if that's a little bit better. Awesome. Sorry about that, JJ. I like to jam out, you know? I like to enjoy it. Alright, so definitely looks like it's bear flagging again under here. Let's go in a little bit time frame more. I mean, it is rejecting exactly where I figured it would reject. So the reason I still think this is going down, and this is generally how you can tell, all the peaks, so like for instance this peak right here, this tells me that we have more distribution. So this is what you call a selling climax with a retest right here. And the retest had the lowest volume. So the retest was obviously a little bit higher, and then this was a rising wedge, right? So typically when you see accumulation, the bottom here is going to be called a selling climax, and that has barely any volume. So that means it's not done yet, right? No, Gaston, I'm bearish. Don't worry about it. So that tells me this is going to come back down and retest the lows of January. Now, what that means it's going to do and how it does it, you know, it's just going to ping pong down. Then you'll start to see what you'll probably see. Hold on. So, might see a little bit of action like this. Then you're just going to see something like that. And that's going to mean we have our bottom in. So if you see the thrust down, and then you're going to see in reverse, you're going to see a volume candle that's just going to be like huge, right? So it's going to be similar to this volume candle. This is earnings, so obviously the earnings candle is going to be huge, right? But you'll see something like this. So see how, so for instance, this you could tell was the bottom here. Because if we look at this, you had a thrust down, huge volume candle back up. And then that means we have accumulation here, so that means we have room and go up. So, keep that in mind. So, you're going to see something similar over here, where you see a thrust down. It doesn't have to come down here. Maybe the thrust down is right here. So maybe you see here, and then you see a thrust down, so it could actually just thrust down here and then go back up. But this is going to be the key area around that 276. Then you'll start to see it kind of do one of these. Something like that. So this will be, like I said, end of the month through mid-March as we see. I think what's going to be the key is when we get the next Fed meeting in March, if they raise rates. I think that's going to be, if it's in line, that's going to spark the rally. But we have to survive till then, and the Ukraine stuff is not helping in my opinion. Alright, so I have Amazon, pretty much similar story. And I showed this to Dapper. He always laughs at me when I do this, but if I can, let me go to the hourly on this. I think I did it on Amazon. Hold on. I think this is what I did. So when you're looking at distribution, things like that, you know, it doesn't quite perfect, but it had one more bounce in it. But for the most part, you can see even on like this candle, it was the sell-off candle, and that means we're going back up. So where are we seeing the big volumes on this? You're seeing them on red candles, and you're seeing them on the sell-offs. You did get a little bit down here, but the big thing is the sell-off down here wasn't huge. So that means we have more room down. Now, Amazon did have news. They did raise their price of... They did raise the price of their Amazon Prime by $20. And I believe they did that over the weekend. When did they do that? Amazon. That was 3 days ago, so they did that on Friday, which is interesting. So I'm curious to see. No, they did that a while ago. They did that February 3rd. I'm sorry. That was February 3rd. But they did do that recently, so. Yeah, so the death cross is just a 50 and a 200 moving average. So if you go to indicators and you look for like you know, you could even just look up death cross and there'll be indicators. So it's a 50 and a 200. You'll probably just do a golden, you know, so. And usually you want to look at it on the daily. That's the one that matters the most. So you can see it had a death cross right here, and it hasn't really gotten above it, so that also would imply that we're going down more. So the death cross is right here. So you see when the fast moving average, so the blue line, so the blue line right here is crossing over the 200 moving average. That is a death cross. Inversely, a golden cross happens right here. So a golden cross is when the fast moving average is below and crosses above. It's pretty simple. It does have meaning. I haven't found them to be instant action. Usually, Uncle Philly, so I pinned to the top of the chat my watch list tonight, so if you want to see that, you can download it yourself. And we're just going through this, and then I do have SPY and QQQ and all that we'll do at the end. So Amazon again. Yes, it did. It does look like we have more distribution here. I don't love, you know, a lot of these, what they're doing. This happened pretty much broadly across the market, right? So this did not happen last time it went below this line. So you have all these distribution zones, right? And now we just broke below it and we retested. And I know futures are up right now, but we have a day and a half of futures before the market actually opens. So anything could happen. And it would not even surprise me if futures are green Monday. Yeah, futures had a big boost, but they're already dying again. So, I mean, for me, I think this is going to come back and retest 2850. So it could go back up to here, could go back up to here, could just go down. We'll have to see. So maybe we get something like that, right? Google. Alright. This is how I knew Google was going to crush it on earnings, or my circles, because it always does. So, Google just went through a massive distribution, so basically it formed a head and shoulders for the most part, but you thought it was going to break out, and it looked like accumulation, which it does look like the most of the volume was buying, so you did think this was an accumulation zone, and I was fooled just like the next person. But now it continues to go down. I have a feeling it's going to retest this line, and I don't think it needs to. I think of all the big tech names, Google's probably the safest. They have such a clear moat. Their leadership is strong, and the only way it goes down is the overall market pulls it down. But for the most part, I like Google a lot out of the names. I think maybe you see it go down like this, but it's going to start going back up. So I like Google more than a lot of the other names. Tesla. Oh. Alright, so Tesla, I have coming down more in this red zone. I got rid of my lines from the beginning of the year. They're still there, right there, but basically I was charting some stuff, so I had to get rid of them. Basically, we're going through a markdown phase right now across most indices and most tickers. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing all this distribution. Now we're going through some price action. Then we'll go markdown, and then we'll see a lot of accumulation, where you're going to see a lot of chop. So probably going to see this maybe do something like this. And then it will start to go back up. So now everyone's always so bullish on Tesla, and they seem to get pissed at me when I point things out that are obvious. And yeah, it's one of those things where you do see a lot of bullish divergence lately too, so that's why I think we do go up a little bit first this week. And I also think I have a theory that this week will be like slightly green, mainly because it's a 4-day week. Now, typically 4-day weeks, people go on vacation, they don't trade as much. With as much news and things going on this week, I don't know if that'll be the case, because we do get GDP this week. We do get some PMI. We do get, obviously, Ukraine news. Hopefully, we might see a resolution of that this week. So, if you're looking at the economic calendar, I believe we have inflationary news tomorrow. Or, sorry, Tuesday. So, Tuesday, let's see. So, Tuesday, you get house index prices. You get manufacturing PMI. So, basically, the PMI is how many orders that product managers are placing. So, if those orders are going up, that could be a good sign for the economy. If the orders are going down, then that could mean we could be heading into a recession, which is something very concerning, which would very much for me, like, I'm going to be watching that number a lot Tuesday morning, because I think that's going to set the tone for the week. And we also have consumer confidence Tuesday as well. So I think that's pretty much going to help us confirm whether or not we're in a bear market. I've been seeing a lot of chatter over the weekend that we just need to admit that we're in a bear market, and I don't know if that chatter is wrong. I think it's just simply that we went through a lot of profit taking. You got to think about it. The last 2 years, we have been on such a bull run, and people kept loading, at some point there needs to be profit taking. That's what's called distribution, right? They pin the price in a zone while they take a lot of profit. People keep wanting to keep buying because they still think it's a bull market, and it's a lot of retailers that sometimes get bag holding, and you know, a lot of this was being like, while we were going through this distribution, you know, all those growth stocks were just getting hammered, and then the market was getting propped up by all the stocks that I'm showing you now that kind of went through the distribution as well, but their prices were held up because there's still a lot of institutions that want to hold those in the long term. Kathy Woods. And the thing is like, there's nothing to say fundamentally that Tesla should be up here, so I still think there's a lot of room to come down. I definitely think 600 is a good price action for that, and so until I see what I need to see for us to say we're done, right, that we're done selling, is I need to see that crazy day where we just have a ton of volume. So like right here, this is what I'm just looking for. So right now we're going through this right here, like this zone where the volume's low. Well, I need to see a big spike like, oops, that's not the marker I wanted marker. So I need to see these big spikes like this, right? And then like this. So these are going to be huge drops, and then they're going to get snapbacks. So those are going to be called springboards, right? So you get the bounce down, huge volume, bounce back up. We have not gotten that yet. It's been controlled selling. There has not been a bottom. And that's why I'm not going to turn bullish until I see that. So, till I see that, I mean, you kind of got it here, I suppose. So this could be considered right here. You get the big action right here. So until I see strong action thrust upwards, I'm not convinced that that's it yet. So now, if we do go back up, you're going to see what's called a show of strength. So until I see that show of strength, which is just a giant thrust with volume to confirm it, there's no reason to believe we're going back up. That doesn't mean we can't. I haven't seen anything to show me we're going back up. And so I will reverse my tune if I see that, but probability tells me we're still going down a little bit more. So let's continue. Nvidia. So a lot of these I just have marked up because I mark up rapid flow every day. So just gotta delete some of this stuff. Alright, so Nvidia is a stock that is still above its 200 moving day, unlike a lot of other ones that I've been looking at. So it'll be interesting with how bullish the semiconductor industry is if Nvidia continues to keep the 200 day. You can see last time, the times that it's fallen below it is usually the time you buy, right? So it falls below it here, falls below it here, here. Well, not here, these two. So this is looking very similar to back here, but to be honest, like the price action doesn't look great to me. So you know, you have your volume shelf up here and rejected off of it twice, and I don't love that. And then you have, you got your pivot zone there. Oh, this is a banging song. Love Res. I'm gonna turn this up a little bit. Just gonna turn it up while I'm marking the chart up, and then I'll turn it back down. So I think it's possible we break below it again. I don't expect it to stay under there very long. Nvidia did have great earnings, And so the problem is those earnings were used by hedge funds to sell into strength. So you have all the retail buying while the hedge funds are selling, and it's easier for hedge funds to break through retail sell walls and vice versa. So this is going to be kind of what the 200-day looks like this. So, or no, actually that would look like this, but yeah, that 200-day has been going nuts lately. There needs to be profit taking, and I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to turn it back down now. There we go. Yeah, the price action has been nutty. So, I have a feeling, we had, a pretty solid mean right here. It actually, now I'm looking at it, that would form a cup and handle, which would mean we have accumulation, right? This is called the rivet right here. Usually in accumulation, what you're going to have is you're going to have some choppy price action, then you're going to have a river, which kind of just is a smoothing action. That's how you know you're going to break out, right? So for instance, like this is a river right here, your final springboard, boom. Or this is the river right here. Then you have a final chop down, and then get your impulse up. You have really good constant volume lately too, so a lot of fighting going on, but would not surprise me, this is what I call the mean. If the price action, this is your blow off the top, and then we're going to have our return to the mean. So there could be a lot of room down for Nvidia still. That actually maybe makes me change my tune a little. So they're a pretty clear channel too. So we have an A, B, C. Yeah, okay. This price action sucks. Hold on. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. All right. So let me explain this price action. Basically, what I'm thinking is going to happen. So you're going to see just continued amount of controlled selling while we chop through this FUD, get us down to our mean. Then you're going to, maybe you see something like that. So then you're going to see a lot of accumulation here into next earnings, which next earnings are going to be good. There's no way they're not going to be. So you're going to see a run up into earnings, a drop maybe the day or two before for some people taking some money off the table. Then earnings is going to gap up. You're going to see a power earnings gap consolidation. And then from there, you're either going to see back down or you're going to see continuation. So you won't really know until you see the price action up to there. Either that or we bounce off the 200-day and we go back up, right? So like I said, I do expect a temporary bounce, but it makes more sense just based on how price action has been going lately that we would see a return to the mean, right? So we ran too hard, too fast. Earnings have been exploding, correct? But if those start to round those earnings and we continue to have supply chain issues, I could see this continuing to sell off because of that. So the market is forward looking. So because of that, if the market is thinking that Nvidia is going to have supply chain issues, they're going to want to sell that off and correct it down to where it should be. Kind of like what we saw with Facebook, right? So what we saw with Facebook was they basically Well, first of all, they had terrible earnings, but their earnings wasn't, in terms of like what it warranted for a sell-off. I'm not sure if Facebook got a... I think Facebook got a bad rap. I'm not a big Facebook fan, just from the company standpoint, but, I mean, they make a lot of money, so you can't deny that, right? Fundamentally, they're a 15 PE ratio on a growth stock. Like, that is phenomenal, right? So, this is the point where you might want to buy the dip. Like, right, like, look at this. This is the biggest since, like, IPO. This is one of the biggest volume. This is the biggest volume candle we've had in 18 years. Warren, it's the new Intel. You know, it might be. You know, it all depends on if their play on the metaverse plays out. So it was interesting that you got a huge volume candle and a doji here, but you know, the volume's starting to go back down. I could see this bouncing around 195, right? So I don't know if it's gonna go back up. I have a feeling it's gonna really, I mean, it clearly went under 245, but I think it's enough of a risk reward ratio now where you're gonna see maybe, you know, a snapback like this, and then you're gonna see, you know, like that, and then maybe you see something like this, and then you see some distribution, and then you start to see something like that. All depends on what their next earning looks like, right? But that kind of a price action wouldn't surprise me. You know, you get your megaphone action. It's going to be really choppy on Facebook, aka Meta. But I don't think it has a whole lot more room to down, which will help the market. Believe it or not, Facebook is still a giant part of it. And so I do think Facebook being so oversold will help the market. Yeah, Trump Truth Social starting Monday, or starting tomorrow. That's going to be interesting. So UNH, the largest holding of the Dow. Man, this thing went from looking awesome to looking really bad really fast. And so, you know, it's one of those things where how bad is it going to go? I think UNH can come down maybe to 430 now. Like, I'm trying to see if it ever had price action similar to this, and maybe here, probably here. Yeah, it makes sense. So that would imply we get a bounce, and then a major sell-off into dividend, and then maybe some extra sell-off, Banola 200-day. So you can see your inverse head and shoulders around earnings. Earnings will skyrocket it back up because their earnings are going to be phenomenal. You know, they always sell off into dividend anyway, so you know, this is something to look at. This is especially with UNH. Look, sell off into dividend, sell off into dividend, sell off into dividend, sell off into dividend. This one is the only place that didn't, you know, kind of sold off into dividend, but it was already oversold from earnings, so that's, don't count that one. Sell off into dividend, sell off into dividend, sell off into dividend. I need to send my friend this chart. You know, UNH's dividend isn't huge, but people tend to sell off into it. So, again, this doesn't look great for the market. So, you know, I still think the Dow is going to be the best performing index this year. I mean, and look at Goldman Sachs. I don't know where this came from, but I just see a lot of these value stocks, like, they look great fundamentally, but you look at them from a macro and from a TA point, like, looks terrible. Shit, it wouldn't surprise me if... Hold on a second. Yeah, it just looks terrible, Warren. Wouldn't surprise me if this came down to 300. So, test this this pivot here. Now, we did make a higher low. We've made higher lows the last couple of days on this, so this could be the start of a wave 2. They did miss on their earnings, which isn't great. So this one I'm a little torn on, and the volume on the sell-off and the volume on this would lead me towards distribution, and with rate hikes, you know, from there you could see this would be your bull path. If it follows the traditional path, you know, maybe, you know, you did get a doji on Friday as well, but we do have dividend. Tends to sell off into dividend and then consolidate. This is just general things. So, you know, maybe you get some price action like this, and then, you know, basically into earnings, and then from earnings we can go from there. So it's all going to depend on how this runs into dividend. I think people discount dividend dates too much. They don't pay attention to them. But there's usually a strong correlation in charts on stocks running into dividends. And you can see, especially on Goldman Sachs, you'll see price action flattening. And basically, it's pretty, you know, price action flattens into it. Sometimes sells off, flattens right here. You can see flattens right there. And again, price action flattening. And Goldman Sachs does have a higher dividend too. So it's interesting to think about. Alright. I already have HD charted. We don't have to do that. It's done exactly what I thought it was going to do. If we go on the hourly, it's more apparent, the head and shoulders. So, yeah, they got earnings. I'm wondering, with supply costs raising and home building kind of going down, it's picked up a little bit lately. It's been choppy, home building, but it ran into the 200-day and rejected last week. Jay, I wouldn't sell your semiconductors. What I would do, however, is if we get a big dip, I would add to them. Semiconductors and computer chips are the future of, in my opinion, of everything on Earth. Right? Everything's going to be modernized, computerized, chipified. The semiconductor industry is not going to get smaller. We're just going through a period of economic uncertainty right now, so a lot of people are taking profits while the profits are there, and so it will come back. Nvidia is theoretically overvalued right now, but they will catch up to it, in my opinion. I don't know if it, like, Nvidia's one of my least favorite right now, is because I think it's the most overvalued of semiconductors. I feel much better about like TSM, AMAT, Intel, things like that. I really think Intel's a sleeping giant. I mean, I've been saying that for, I know, a while now, and the price action hasn't reflected my feelings, so I understand the disdain for Intel, and maybe I'm early on it, right? But I think in 2 to 3 years, people are going to come back around on Intel. So let me look up forward PE on Intel. See, Nvidia, or not Intel, but so Nvidia has a forward price earnings of 43 with a current price earnings around 90. The forward PE is decent, but still really overvalued. I'd love to see the forward PE around that 20 to 30 mark for me to feel really good. And so I think that it still could come down another 10 to 20% on Nvidia, which I had marked up on my chart. I think I have it marked up even possible it comes down another 30-40%, right? So it's at 230 right now, and I have it possibly coming down to 180. So yeah, it can easily take another 30-40% or 25-30% off. And that's where I would feel comfortable longing it, and I would feel really good longing it around 190, around 190, 200. But like I said, if you're in it for the long haul, don't worry about it now. Just add on the dips, because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it bounces on the 200-day. Don't listen to me on something that everyone loves. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. The thing is, if you love it, buy it, and then just add on the dips. Oh, wow. Intel. Man, this thing just gets zero love and has not gotten any love. Whoa. That's a fucking chart. Hello. That is a crazy ass chart. You know, that's a clear cup and handle. Man, look at all that. The thing is like all the volume is way back here. We haven't seen a major volume on Intel since, I mean, the volume we haven't seen on Intel in 10 years, 20 years. I mean, look at the volume back here. Back in 93 compared to today. Like, the volume's so low. So until we see that volume spike up again, maybe that's the sign to go in, is when you see someone big go into Intel, and that's our sign. I don't think this price is bad right here. What is it, like a 9 PE rate? It's something stupid, right? Like a 9.79 PE ratio. They need to do buybacks, and they need to raise their dividend or something. Maybe not raise the dividend, but that's the cat pattern. Alright, where were we on? Goldman Sachs? I think we did. Okay, we're on McDonald's now. Yeah, that weekly doesn't look great, if I'm going to be honest with you. I think the daily looks even worse. Yeah, that looks terrible. I mean, everything looks like this right now, right? We're going to have like this price action like this, and we're going to get giant drops. Distribution, right? That's probably what's gonna happen. All right, so this is a higher low still. We're still making higher lows, so we haven't broken below the 200-day. I do expect a relief on this because we got that hammer there. But we still, man, we still got dividend coming up. always sells off in the dividend. Maybe it didn't this time. Alright, that's interesting. But that's after a big bull run. I want to see what happens. Everything's got dividend coming up. And that's everything's around the end of the month. Alright, so we got that this week. Next week. Wait, February 28th? Oh, next Monday. Okay. Alright, so I do think McDonald's bounces. But then I think it comes down in a dividend. And then from there, we'll see. I don't think McDonald's will fall below the 200-day. It's been super strong. I thought I read something super bearish lately on it, though. I don't know enough about it to predict super long on it. I don't follow it very often. But price action tells me it's going to retest the 200-day. It hasn't retested it since March of last year. Which is interesting. It's been so strong. But, you know, that would make sense if it retested the 200-day. So, I'm going to go with that. Alright, Visa played out my head and shoulders, hit my price target. I haven't done anything since then. Let's take a look at this. So, on earnings, we saw major push up. Ooh, okay. This looks good. Wow, this is the first stock I've seen that looks good in a while. We did close below the 200. Maybe it just kind of consolidates this week. Earnings are starting to rise again. Yeah, I like Visa. You know, this looks like a 1, 2, 3. Maybe what you get is maybe you get something like that. So, this is the first one I've seen that actually doesn't look terrible. Terrible. Amgen. Great earnings. Alright. Interesting. You get smaller and smaller bodies. That means this should looking closer to a bottom here. Good earnings. Got long wicks, short tops, but this wick was long and the volume was big too. Can't get back over the 200-day. Man, there's just... I feel like right now there's nothing like what feels like we're trading with an edge, right? Like, I think this is where people force stuff too much, where they feel like they always have to be in a trade, and I'm super guilty of this a lot. I feel like I did this on Friday to myself. I was up 15% on the day, and I got super cocky. I was like, you know, I'm going to take the day off. I'm good. This was like the first hour of the day. I was up 15%. I was like, I don't need to trade today. And I saw a cup and handle intraday on VIX, and I was like, dude, this is going to tank. You know, everything's been super bearish. And then it had a fake out, which I bought, and that just dropped, and I gave back all my gains for the day, and it was so devastating. I don't know why I did it. I think it was just greed, human greed, right? And I should have just walked away, but it happens. I took it on the chin, and I'm gonna come back Tuesday, and we're gonna have some bangers, and we'll find something, and we'll let price action dictate what we buy, right? But like swinging right now, if I don't have an edge, I'm not swinging. And if I don't feel like I have an edge, it's day trading only. And I think that's what's killing people right now. And that's why, like, even the streamer view numbers and everything I'm seeing, like, the price action of the market right now is killing people. And especially on swinging. Because you'll be down 50% the next day and you'll sell. And then it moons the next day and you would have been up 100% if you just held through the drop, right? And I think that's shaking out a lot of newbies and really putting people off on the market, where they thought, like, when we had this bull market since COVID, everyone and their mom wanted to, everyone was home. They discovered the market. They wanted to trade. They made a lot of money, or they at least didn't lose a lot of money, but now they're losing a lot of money because everything's shaking them out. So, like, if you're going to swing something, you have to have an edge. There has to be a reason to swing it. It can't just be, oh, I like Nvidia, and Nvidia historically has always gone up. That doesn't work anymore. My brother talked to me. He's like, the strongest swings I've had lately is VIX, because every night we get news, so the volatility index, spikes overnight. And I usually make money on open. And I'm like, it's kind of a funny strategy. But he goes, the funny thing is I've just been doing it as hedges, but it's been the one thing that I've consistently made money on. So I was like, that's the point. So I just noticed something. So, all right, that is interesting, what I just noticed. But could just be the start of a new channel. We'll see. But right now, we're in a day trading market. We got great volatility intraday. And we have too much news going on right now, too much FUD, which is really making swing trading hard. So, I just want that to be known. It's just one of those things. So, all right, Boeing. I'm probably one of the biggest Boeing bears out there. I think COVID got it right when it's a $90 stock, right? I'm just deleting stuff so we can start over. It hasn't been in an uptrend since March of last year. I don't expect anything to change. Fundamentally, this stock sucks. It's one of the worst stocks in the market. And I'll buy it at 160. Maybe. I don't even know if I probably won't ever buy it. But until Boeing fixes their fundamental problem, there's nothing to like about it. And they just had their worst earnings ever. They were supposed to lose 36 cents a share. They lost almost $8 a share. They had an earnings disappointment of 2,000 fucking %. Like, the fact that this thing went up off of earnings boggles my fucking mind. And so I will never touch it, because I don't know how to gain an edge on it, because it doesn't do anything that makes sense. So, yep, that's how I feel about that. I still think it's going down, but Boeing's been one of those that's been hard for me to predict with accuracy, so I don't feel like I have a huge edge on Boeing, but I do think that Boeing will eventually come down to 160. So if I had to guess, maybe it does one of these. And then maybe at next earnings it does that. So eventually institutions are going to dump it, right? Like, the problem is everybody and their mom bought it up here. And look at this huge diamond top. Like, that's just so diamond toppy. Like for the longest time, it was a $150 stock, right? And I wouldn't expect anything different from it. It's going to go back into the zone. I think the 160 zone is strong, and I think the 120 zone is strong. Fundamentally, it hasn't gotten any better. It's probably worse off than it was all these years. Someone mentioned Neo. Alright, let's talk about Salesforce. Wow, Salesforce broke the support I did not think it would break. Okay. So as a company, as a moat, and as... I'll talk about Himax once I'm done with my list, because I know people are interested. And we're going to go a little over than what my normal allotment is, but I'm having a good night. So Salesforce, you know, for all everyone was looking at, like, this is a great chart. Came back, retested, bounced. Ran a little hard. I think it's a little oversold right now. I mean, look at the RSI. It has been screaming by me, by the way, on the daily. Let me look at. I haven't looked at the fundamentals recently. Fundamentally, yeah, I see it. Let me look at its forward PE real quick. So CRM is doing something that a lot of other companies. So its forward PE is similar to Nvidia, about 43, right? So maybe it does have some more room down, but so Salesforce has been investing in a ton of other companies that have really bright futures but just aren't realized yet. So they've been not putting all their eggs in one basket. So if one of their other companies they've invested in really crushes it, they could have a gold mine on their hands. I do expect them to crush earnings. They always crush earnings. And I expect them to, like, a lot of people are expecting them to go down. I don't see any reason for it. They are sort of in a falling wedge right now, so I do expect at least a relief rally up to the 200. From there, if I'm a little blurry, it says I have an excellent connection, so it might be your internet, Boss Trades. But I love CRM from a company standpoint, and I think this goes back to, like, how everyone thinks I'm a Tesla bear. It's not that I'm a Tesla bear, it's just I don't love the price evaluation of the stock. So I like Tesla as a company, I just don't like the price it's at because it's not investable for me. And I think that's the same thing with Nvidia. I love the company, but I don't love the price it's at because it's not investable for me. Like, there's not, the upside to the risk is so not there for me that as the way that I invest, that's not something I can do. And CRM is, I'm torn on because I love it so much as a company. But again, just looking at the fundamentals, like, it might have another 25% downside. And so it might come all the way down to 160, 170. And that would not surprise me in the least bit. So, you know, maybe you get a sell-off off of next earnings, and then finally you see some accumulation and we get some bounce ups, right? So maybe we go up off of earnings, and then we pull a Nvidia, we come down, right? So you see a spike up off of earnings, and then we see a sell-off into the strength. Caterpillar is interesting. It had all the hallmarks of accumulation. It has everything going for it in terms of, like, good news. We have the infrastructure bill starting soon, which is great. We have growth earnings. We have a really good PE ratio. We have a great balance sheet. Book value is high. I understand that. Net income is good. EPS is good. Dividend is good. We have a curling up of growth and debt to assets. Well, debt to assets isn't great, but profit margins going up. So I think what we're going to get here is a springboard, right? So I think this has to play out this 5 waves down. You clearly see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would put us, we'll just do a measured move. Yeah, it makes sense. You know, little bounce action worth around 184, kind of where it was before. So I think that's gonna be a strong bounce zone back in the next earnings, right? So come down to 184 and back up to 206. And it doesn't have to go all the way down. It can bounce anywhere in these directions, right? I'm just making and like, keep in mind, like, these price zones that we're looking at are really only a 40% probability. But of the zones, like the other ones are 20, 30, 40, like of the zones, that is the highest probability zone, but it's still only a 40% probability. And that's what is so hard about having exact price targets on TA, is sometimes with using fibs and stuff, each of those zones is a probability zone, and you have to pick one based on what you see on the chart for when you're charting stuff out. But you should be able to be ready to change that on an instant if you see something with the volume price action. And so, you know, I'm looking at this from another viewpoint, and you can clearly see, you know, kind of a head and shoulders here too, with a retest here. If this was a full measured move and this is actually an ABC down, you know, ABC, this could be even worse in my opinion. So you could see a measured move on this would put us at, you know, this is another probability zone. That would put us at 160, which is interesting. Because then, yeah, I'd be curious if that came down below that, but 160 puts us in this zone. So then it's going to bounce off this volume shelf right here. Alright. OVV. Avinative. Oil and gas. So this is a small cap. So we're getting into the small caps. So we just did the Dow right there. So basically you have SPY and QQQ are so similar that the first 6 we did were SPY. First 7 we did were SPY and QQQ. Then we just did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the Dow, because I thought that I wanted to focus on the Dow a lot because we haven't done that much. Now we're going to be focusing on small caps. So I got a lot of small caps right here. So we do have bearish divergence on oil here. Oil is crushing it this weekend. Last time I looked, let me look again. Oil, wait, is that actually down now? Wow, okay, so natural gas is up 5%, but when futures open, oil was up 2%. Now it is actually down. I'm a feeling that probably has to do with probably has something to do with futures reversing. Let me pull up my list of indices futures. So yeah, commodities reversed. Okay, so that would, in theory, yeah, I know they have a meeting scheduled, but they could invade Russia could invade Ukraine, and that'll get denied anyway. So I don't love all these wicks. Look at this, 1, 2, 3, just giant wicks, and you have a gravestone right there. So, you have a bearish hammer, but bearish hammer, gravestones, whatever you want to call it. Very similar candlesticks. The big thing is the price action started and ended. You know, you basically had a U day. So if you were to look at that, like on the 15 or the 5-minute, you know, price action of the day, started one way, went up, and then started where it ended where it started, right? And it ended in a bearish way. You have giant sell-off at the end of the day. So this could be coming down more based on price action. But then again, it did also close here. And that price volume was not that great. We do have earnings coming up. Earnings should be good. Interesting. Maybe this does finally go. I think I was looking at the daily. Isn't there a price shelf there? Yeah, maybe this goes up. I think small caps have gotten dick pounded so hard that they're probably one of the better ones to play. 1 second. Oh. Alright, THC. Everyone loves a little THC, right? Yeah, of all the small caps, this one has been not so bad. Did take a couple diggers in the last couple days, but wow, it made a lot of money. Holy cow. Hospital operations. Yeah. Oh, look at that sell-off straight down the last 2 days. Interesting. That could be making a Batman, aka a double top. Did close below. Kind of looks like we're going to get that gap fill now. Could not get over. Price action could not get over. Yeah, that's a double top, 100%. Oh man, it is wonderfully priced. I like this a lot. I think what you're going to be looking for. Let me see here. Where's the halfway back? We could be going back down to the halfway back, which would be 70. Yep, that would. Okay, so that's going to go in line with this pivot. So it's either going to go there or it's going to go to the 618, right? And it's going to fill that gap. So I think regardless, it's going to go down. So you might see the start, but then go down, and it's either going to do that and then do one of these, right? Or it's going to go like this and go up like that. So it's going to do one of those things, but the price action will be similar. How far it dips will be up in the air. So we'll have to see. Synaptics. This is clearly in an up channel. Ping ponging 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Man, I fucking hate that everywhere I look, the price action just looks shitty as fuck. It's so hard to find shit to go long on right now, which is probably why you should go long. But I guess until I get some confirmation that it's time to go long, like everything fucking looks terrible. Like even this, something that's in an uptrend, right? But the problem is it filled that gap, retested it, and rejected. Still looks terrible. Price action. Oh, earnings are fantastic. Right, this thing had crazy good earnings. Human interface semiconductor solutions. Mobile communications. Man, the earnings on this are flying. It's still overvalued though. And that's the problem. All these semiconductors ran so hard. Just checking out what their forward PE is. Wow, their forward PE is a 17. Crazy. Alright, that's great. Okay, that makes me a little bit... Alright, so it did fill this gap here and rejected. Interesting. Maybe we come back down to the 200 day, but this is definitely one you're going to want to stick on your list. Yeah, I think it's going to do something like that. So this is going to be accumulation. This will be your river right here. This is what drains everyone, and then it's just going to go bonkers probably on the next earnings. This next earnings will be great too. So keep this one on your list. This one looks great. It's very similar to Lattice. You know, these are your two big IWM semiconductors. So well, I'm just texting my wife real quick. So, I mean, it rejected off the 200 day. It's below. It's making a bear flag. Price action tells me it's coming down. And the market's going to make me look crazy if it goes up this week because everything looks like it's coming down. You want me to farm? Or you want me to look at GIS? Is that General? What am I drawing a fucking blank on? Is that General Mills? No. GIS? Yeah, it's just General Mills. I wasn't crazy. It's like, is that General? Such a weird ticker. Alright, so Lattice, I think it's going to come down, retest this pivot, but I think Lattice will be fine. They had crazy good earnings. So probably come down like this. I think Lattice will be fine. Macy's. Ooh, they got earnings tomorrow. Expected to be amazing. Yeah, I mean, Macy's looks like it's in a in an accumulation, in my opinion. Everything looks great. I think Macy's is good to go for 28 to 30. Yeah, I like Macy's. I think Macy's will go up. It's got earnings Tuesday. So yeah, I could see Macy's Tuesday doing something like this. So that's good for IWM. BJ's. You know, BJ's Wholesale Club. Buy assets, operation for distribution centers. BJ's has been going great. I think BJ's could also be one that's interesting. Bounce off the 200 day. I do see some divergence in RSI, which I don't love. So I'm wondering what's going on with that. Let me look at the fundamentals. I've never really looked at this one in depth. So it's fairly valued. So with the market, with the rising wedge, I'm expecting this to kind of do one of these. And so, you know, it's gonna go backwards in time. I should see some profit taking into earnings, and then depending on earnings is whether if it has a good earnings, it should open up here. Bad earnings, it might open up down here. Let's see. And then AMC, everyone's favorite ticker. I had this one charted back. I charted this back here in January, and nothing's changed. My chart looks perfect still, so I'm gonna keep it. So I'll check out GIS for you, Sig. So General Mills. General Mills earnings are expected to drop, so if they have a big beat, that will help them. From an earnings standpoint, they don't look terrible. Bounce exactly where you want it to bounce. I'm worried it's in a distribution fund round right now, though. If you're looking at similar price action, for instance, like back here, it looks very similar to now, where you get, you know, your markup. So you get your markup. This could be River, though. This isn't terrible. Yeah, I like this. I think this is gonna be okay. I need to see some volume come in. The price action's solid. It had a good day Friday. Even if you look on like the daily. The daily looks good too, right? Closed above the downtrend. I like that. I think we're good on this one. Curious why this one is so strong compared to some other fundamentals. That's kind of what you're hoping to see, I guess. Although it did already retest this, so yeah, that should be. I like it. It's a good call out, Sig. Yeah, I think you're referring to the volume shelf on the daily. So you're probably talking about 69 when it breaks over 69 on the daily. What are these tickers? Voom.rent, Voom.ong. Are these Indian tickers? Like what? I don't know what you guys are typing. Ethereum. Alright, let's look at the indices. Let's look at futures and we're going to color it. Didn't Vodafone get bought out or something? Vod? I feel like they did something. There's news on them lately. I don't know why I was looking at it lately, but this is definitely what I would call accumulation, and that is definitely a show of strength. This is definitely a great, really like it. So, Vodafone looks great. I don't know a ton about it though. There's something, I'm trying to think if there's news on it or something. Top 3 plays this week. Well, that's a secret. All in ET. What are you laughing at, Sig? Alright, let's go look at futures here again. So futures are currently green. Even on the daily, they look terrible. Alright, look. Secret. Top 3 plays this week. Yeah. Hookers, blow, and ammo. Yeah, daily futures don't look great. I mean, even look where futures rejected too. So futures pumped again and rejected until we reclaim this point of control here. Like, there's no reason for me to be long. And we couldn't even break the downtrend either. So, it is trying, though. I will give it that. So, maybe we'll have to see. Like, I'll chart it out again tomorrow and see how futures go tomorrow. But we could easily be bullish all day today, tonight, tomorrow. And do like something like this through the next 2 days. And then overnight, boom, right? And that could, we could do that all day Tuesday. So, I just don't love anything right now, unfortunately. And so that's why I'm not swinging much. Wow, that fractal. Holy fuck, I can't believe that played out. Almost perfect. Sig, you still here? You remember this fractal I've been showing you all fucking year? That's crazy. That would imply that it's more like this then. So the fractal went down a little bit lower. So that's implying that we're near a bottom. I can't believe that's played out so well. That would imply that we have a little bit more range down in terms of price action. But in terms of if you were to do... I mean, the timing's not always perfect, but that would put me at about 13,500 on NQ. Right? But it could also mean we have a double bottom. I like fractals. Fractals are fun. So, this is a point where it could bounce, right? So, if... The problem is the reason I don't know if we're going to bounce is for everything I just showed you. A lot of those tickers look terrible, but Facebook looks decent. Like I said, when we look at Apple, when we look at Microsoft, when we look at Amazon, when we look at Google, when we look at Tesla, a lot of them, look at Nvidia. Like, so for, particularly like Google and Microsoft have similar, and Apple, right? So these all have similar where they drop and then kick back up. And then if we go look at NQ, that would make sense that we have a huge drop and then we kick back up, right? Those would all match those charts, so that fractal could still play out that way. So maybe the fractal is a little bit longer, more like this. And maybe we just have to stretch it out a little bit more. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Actually, hold on. We can make that a little better. There we go. There we go. Now we're talking. There. Just gotta adjust the fractal, right? So that would imply that we have a couple of choppy days, and then after this week we have maybe a bull run on tech. And that should be in line. It's not in line with a lot of other things I've been saying. So I don't know if I love the fractal anymore. I loved it up to this point. We'll have to see. It could be right. This is very similar. I took this back from a similar time period. So if you want to see where I took this from, it was back from 2016. So it's funny to think, like, I was like, where was the last distribution, right? So that was right here. So this was very similar price action, right? So I was looking at the Qs. You have this head and shoulders, massive drop, massive drop. And this is basically what we just have right now, this profit taking at its core. And then you have a snapback. You have a huge volume on the bottom right. So you have huge volume here, which is the first shelf. So if you're looking up here, you got your huge volume here. We haven't gotten our second big volume yet, and that's how you know we have the bottom. So that would claim that, and it doesn't have to come up all the way. You might actually get some sideways action for a while. So Ricky, NQ is, I just did ES, which is basically SPY. NQ is basically QQQ, so this will dictate the QQQ action. YM is the Dow, which we'll do next. So YM is the Dow futures, which look not great. When's the last time you had head and shoulders and the Dow closed below the 200-day after rejecting off? Let's take a look. It's been a very long time. We are basically right here on the Dow. So if you want to see, I didn't mean to do that, but I meant to go with this. Let's see what happens there. Oh, I see what I'm doing. I'm just using the wrong one. I'll show you how I did this last time. This is a little choppier. Will this match it? Not the same as the other ones, really. So this fractal isn't as good as the QQQ one. Or maybe it is. I'm just being overreactive with the sell-off, right? Alright, so that would imply, if we're going to do similar price action, you know, the Dow does have a falling wedge too into support. So to me, that would dictate that maybe we do this. Down, up. Let me go from there. So I don't know for a fact if that's a head and shoulders yet. What does the DIA actually look like? Yeah, that looks more like a head and shoulders though. I forget what the Russell... What's the ticker for Russell Futures? RTY, that was it. Okay. So the Russell already had distribution, and now it's in a markdown phase. I think we looked at it, and a lot of the Russell stocks don't look terrible. But don't be surprised because GME and AMC and a lot of these other ones, if it doesn't come down further. I don't actually love how it closed either. I mean, if we're looking at it on a daily standpoint, it closed below the bull flag. And it's a solid close below too, right? So, I mean, we were green on Friday. But that was because we gapped down and retest. So, we'll have to see what happens here. I do expect this to start going through some accumulation. I do see an ABC down as well. I think the Russell will have a retest. But from there, we should start to find some bottom on the Russell. So... Maybe you see some price action like this. So maybe you'll see something like that. That would make sense to me. So yeah, that's what I got. Don't really have been on here for about an hour and 40 minutes, so I think I'm gonna call it there. I'm gonna take a couple of SIG requests. See what he's looking at here. Ooh, I did say I would look at HIMX. Okay. Man, that looks just like Intel, doesn't it? Alright, so HIMX had earnings. They crushed it. 4 PE ratio right now. Earnings continue to go higher. Forward guidance was good. HIMX forward PE is still a 4.4. Cash flow solid. Book share solid. There's no reason not to love this. Dividends decent. Upside here outweighs everything there is to the downside. And it's still heavily shorted. Let me pull this up to short on it. Interest on it. Like, everything here tells me of all the semiconductors, this one has the most what I call explosive fuel. So because it continues to grow, semiconductor industry continues to boom. I mean, it's up to 23% shorted right now. The cost of borrow is still low, so I haven't seen any squeeze power. Like, there's no reason for it to get squeezed yet, other than, like, look at this. So here's the thing, like, look at the volume candle in this wick. This thing is going to go. I'm so confident on it. It's my largest position right now. So obviously I'm a little biased, but it continues to hold above all these volume shelves right here, and it closed above the biggest volume shelf there is. So I want to see it reclaim the 200-day and continue to get above it. Like, if it can get over 1250, like, this thing easily has room to $20, if not more. So still love it. There's a reason why we got long dated calls on my account on it. So the reason I got those is because, you know, March 18th I got those out too. And so in a week or two, if it still hasn't gone, I'll roll those out to April. And if in a week or two those still go, I'll roll them out to May. I don't care. This thing's going to pop, and it's going to go hard when it goes. It's going to be very similar from when it ran from $10 to $16 in a month. So it's going to go up 60% in a month, maybe more. I mean, in theory, it could go up in like 5 days. It could go up $5. It just needs to get that short squeeze going, because fundamentally it's easily a $16 to $20 stock. Probably longer, but the market conditions haven't been great. All we need is a little bit of some green action and this thing will start to go. So if I had to guess, you know, it'll continue to go like this. Then maybe you see this, and then that's when you get your explosion. So you're gonna see some up here. You're gonna see some more choppy action around $12 to $13. Then you're gonna see it continue to hold this, and then you're gonna see an explosion. If you guys enjoyed the stream, you like it, give me a thumbs up. Makes me feel better about myself, you know. Other than that, hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you guys. That's going to do it for me.